I am begging the Florida Gators to make a change on the offensive line. Please, just one time. Just please, just try it. Try it. We'll talk about it here on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. Happy Wednesday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet, especially college basketball season right now. Just throw it on a minus 5,000 team, whatever. $150 if your team wins. Visit fanduel.com/locked on to get started. And I'm going into the depth chart today here, and I want to make this part clear. This is not indicative of his past week performance. Because, I mean, look, last week was one of Damien George's better weeks of the season, one of his better games of the season. I think pass protection, probably his best game that we've seen. I don't know how you can look at me and tell me that that's the best we've got at right tackle. And I think that he probably benefited from Austin Barber having to handle most of the snaps against Landon Jackson, who is Arkansas's best pass rusher, and he's their big player there. He's their big time player. And he's kind of their only pressure generator with any sort of consistency, unless they blitz. So yeah, he's gonna look better when you look at PFF, and it probably says 0 pressures or 1 pressure or whatever it might be. But when I look at the film from this past Saturday, I see an offense that tried to throw screens a couple times, slip screens a couple times, and it did not work. And part of the reason it did not work is because defender got to the running back before the blocker got to the defender. And we bring back to, I think it was 3rd and 7. Florida faked the play to the left, the slip screen to the right, and it was Damien George against a DB, and DB just blew it up. Completely blew. And it wasn't like, oh, DB just ran around Damien George. He ran through him there. And I mean, you were forced to punt. It was just a bad play. It was a bad situation. I don't think that you just can't convince me the best right tackle is playing right now. And it's nothing against Damien George. I don't know who he is as a person. I do know that Hayden Hansen has said, hey, I like blocking with him. He's like a guy that I've got good chemistry with. I understand that. I'm not saying he's bad as a person. I just don't think he's the best right tackle. I think he's at best an average offensive tackle. I think that he'd be better suited at guard. However, I also wouldn't play him over Richie Leonard or Micah Mazuka. But when I look at right tackle, Cam Waits has to be ready to handle starting snaps at this point, right? Yes, I understand he tore his Achilles in January. However, Cameron Waits this past weekend against Arkansas, he played in 17 snaps. Against Georgia, he played 12 snaps. Against Vanderbilt, he played almost 40 snaps. I can't be sold that he's not ready for this. I can't be sold that Cam Waits isn't ready to be the starting tackle here. It's just not something that you can really convince me of. So for me, I'm looking at Cam Waits as the guy that should be the starting right tackle for the Florida Gators. And again, no matter who the starting tackle is, they're going to rotate. That's what they do. Should be Cam Waits. And if it isn't Cam Waits, if Cam Waits for some reason isn't ready to be cleared to play a full football game, which I don't know how that would be the case, Lindell Hudson, put him in. And I will say this. I've been told that the staff isn't as high on Lindell Hudson right now as we are. And by we, I mean Florida Gators fans who are often clamoring for Lindell Hudson. I mean the Locked On Gators Discord who's clamoring for Lindell Hudson. I don't know why. I think this is just one of those times where I'm going to chalk it up to, hey, we disagree on something. He looks better than Damien George has to me. And again, I'm not saying that Lindell Hudson has looked amazing. I'm not saying he's looking like Osiris Torrens, but at right tackle. But I mean, Lindell Hudson to me has looked pretty good. And I know that he's listed as the backup left tackle here. I don't know why you wouldn't play him at right tackle, considering we've seen him play right tackle exclusively, or maybe not exclusively, but the huge majority of his snaps this year have been at right tackle. Okay. Huge majority of his snaps have been at right tackle. I think he's done a damn good job in pass pro. I think he's done an all right job as a run blocker. I think that when you look at the offense and you look at right tackle, Damien George is a better run blocker than Lindell Hudson. I don't care when people are like, he's bad at run blocking too. I disagree with that when we're talking about Damien George. I think he's a fine run blocker. I think he excels when you look at counter. And that's another part where this coaching staff is not running counter as often as I think they should be. They're not running those runs that allow Richie Leonard to get moving consistently, that allow Damien George to get moving across the formation and make plays. Damien George is the better run blocker than Lindell Hudson Jr., in my opinion. Again, you can disagree. You can, I don't know what PFF has them. I don't know what the coaching staff thinks. Damien George is a better run blocker than Lindell Hudson, but Lindell Hudson Jr. is a better pass blocker than Damien George. And here's the thing. This is a team that so far this season, they've looked more, or at least they've ended up passing more frequently than we expected. That's just been their approach to things. So I look at it as, hey, then lean into it. Like if you're going to pass, which again is just it's not what I think this team is built to do, or it was supposed to be built to do. But if it's what you're going to have to do, then it's what you have to do. Then put the better pass blocker in there. I think Cam Waits gives you the most balanced offensive tackle there. I think Damien George gives you the better run blocker when you use him properly. I don't think he's very good in wide zone style. And Lindell Hudson is the best pass blocker there. Just play the guys that should be playing. Play the guys that deserve to play there. Play the best possible players that help you win a freaking football game and get to bowl eligibility. Again, Damien George played one of his better games against Arkansas. It was okay. It wasn't a great game, but it was one of his better games against Arkansas, against, again, what I think is a relatively weak side of their defense. But I mean, I can't get, like, I can't get Kentucky out of my mind. I can't get Georgia out of my mind. I can't get Vanderbilt out of my mind, where I think of him as like, okay, he's better at left tackle than right tackle, but he's not going to play left tackle because Austin Barber's there. It's just far too often that there are bad plays made on the right side of the offensive line. And it's not often Mike Mazuka there. He hasn't been awesome either. But I think if you're the Florida Gators, you make that change at right tackle. Hopefully, please. You could talk about corner. You could talk about all these other spots. But I think right tackle is the one that you need to change more than anything else. That's my opinion. I'm just someone who watches football and gets paid to talk about it. I'm not the coach, but that's my suggestion would be Cam Waits. And if Cam Waits isn't ready to go, Lindell Hudson. However, I think that I will say I nailed on the head. It was last season when I brought Hayden Hansen on the show and we hung out and we were talking there. He's back again this week. He's back every Wednesday. Before we are joined by Hayden, let me tell you guys about Prize Picks, because Prize Picks has been the best way for me to make money playing daily fantasy sports this year. And if you've got skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few easy taps. And it's important to remember, you do need to do your research. That is also a very important part. But I will talk about, let's say Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football was great for me because Austin Eckler, more than 13.5 rushing attempts. He did that. Greg Zuerlein and Cameron Dicker, more than 3.5 field goals made, which, by the way, what an insane line that was. To go against the Jets defense and have the Jets offense against the Chargers defense, insane to set that at 3.5. But whatever. Hey, thank you for the free money. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks is daily fantasy sports made easy. Joining me now, like he does every Wednesday for Locked On Gators, is Florida Gators starting tight end Hayden Hansen. And Hayden, I'm going to start with this part because I think it was the moment where like my heart broke a little bit. Game starts. Arkansas quickly drives down the field. Like it was such an easy drive, score a touchdown. You guys come out for offense. First play, Ricky Pearsall fumbles. It's returned for 6, which was like an insane play anyway to rip it. And the same guy that rips it returns it. But what was the sideline like after that? Because from where I was sitting, everyone, like all the air just came right out of where I say. So what was the sideline like after that? Napier, Mertz, Ricky, what did the leaders of the team say?
I think we were all just shocked, man. It happened so fast. Like, I remember I was blocking my guy. He ran the other way, so we let go. He would get a holding call. I turned around and guys in the end zone, like, what just happened? We went back to the sideline, obviously everyone's like just kind of shell shocked for a minute. No one really said much until they kicked it back off. Like, all right, let's just go back down there and score, do our thing, So yeah, that's kind of, I mean, you can hear the whole stadium just let out like, it was, yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, Ricky's one of our best players, one of our best competitors. I mean, everyone slips up sometimes, but I mean, it was just for him to do that. It was just like, wow. But we recovered and we eventually tied the game back 14-14.
Yeah, that was from where I was sitting was your guys' side, the opposite end zone from where that play happened. And I thought he was out of bounds. And then I see dude running into the end zone and their crowd go crazy. And I was just like, oh, this is gonna get out of hand real quick. Not gonna lie, that was my thought process, was that it was going to get out of hand real quick. But how do you even like settle down after that? Because they immediately recovered, so you had to get right back onto the field. So just as a player, how do you really settle down? Because I had people texting me, they were just like, I'm sorry that's the game that you went to. It was rough there.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have a short-term memory in this game. I mean, you can't control what you can control. And when we went back on the field, we knew we could march out there and score and get the ball back again. I mean, eventually we did get to 14-14. We just got to keep fighting. And, when stuff like that happens, you can't dwell on it, because it'll eat you up and then it'll affect your play, believe it or not. So you just got to be like, all right, on to the next, So.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that this has been a big talking point since the loss. You guys 5 wins right now. 3 games remaining at LSU, at Missouri. Then you host Florida State to wrap up the regular season. 1 win away from bowl eligibility. Hell of a schedule remaining. Just what's your mindset at this point? What's the team's mindset at this point?
Yeah, I mean, there's no one in that locker room that's ducking smoke. We're ready. We're getting on that plane this week to go beat LSU. There's no quit in this team. We know what's at stake. I mean, we feel like we could get all 3 of these teams. And even the teams that beat us previously, we felt like if things would have went different, we could have beat them as well. So, I mean, the mindset's just go out and win out, control what we can control. And on a side note, I have a question for you. I'm not really into the selection process or whatever, but I heard say, it's not going to happen, but just say we lose out. We have 5 wins. Is there still a chance we get picked? I was hearing a rumor about that, but I don't really know how that happens.
If there's not enough 6-win teams, I believe it is possible, but it's very improbable. And especially at this point now, James Madison is requesting that they be bowl eligible because they're not bowl eligible right now because they went up from FCS to FBS, but they are undefeated and trying to get bowl eligibility. Maybe they're the team that gets it if there's not enough 6-win teams, but yeah, it's like incredibly slim chance. It would have to be, things would have to happen and shake out that way to get 5 wins and do it. But it is possible, just not probable. Yeah. No. And then to this game, I feel like we saw more condensed sets than usual against Arkansas with you guys more bunched up against the formation. It felt like more than usual, at least for me. Could have not been. Maybe it was just how I was perceiving things. But was that something that you guys saw and you were like, all right, we could exploit this with this Arkansas defense, or was it just the game plan?
Yeah, I mean it's a mix of both. We felt like, I mean, for the most part, we have a goal. Like we like to score a lot of points, as an offense. But we put up quite a few, but not as much as we wanted to. But I mean, we felt like that game plan we executed it pretty well, especially like you said in the bunch out of 12 with me and Arliss and Ricky and stuff like that. I mean, we felt like for the most part we executed it well. We still, like Napier said earlier, we haven't had the complete game. There's always one person or someone messing up, So, but I feel like for the most part I feel like it was a better game offensively, but there's still a lot of room to improve.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely one of the better games that we've seen so far from the offense. Like you mentioned, yeah, no, we have not seen a complete game where all phases work out. That's probably the most frustrating part about at least being a fan from this season. Is just it feels like every game there's just something where even if it's a win or a loss, there's just something where it feels like some side is not performing there. But you mentioned you, Arliss, and Ricky specifically as like the bunch there. And we saw you guys line up a lot with Arliss as the inside tight end, you as the outside tight end, and then Ricky usually outside your shoulder. I feel like we usually see that reverse. Like we've seen you line up like that before, but I feel like usually it leans the opposite side of you more inside, Arliss more outside, and then we see Ricky there. Was that also a matchup thing? Is the offense just opening up a bit? Because we've also seen you play some more slot snaps in recent weeks than usual, or is that just coincidence? That's just how things happen.
I think it's a lot of everything you just said. Matchup wise, I mean, we didn't really go into that thing like, okay, we could take this guy, take this guy. I think it was just they like the formation, they like the audibles out of it. I just feel like they have a lot of confidence in that. I mean, we did both. I mean, there were times where we switched back. It was just I think I think it stuck early that it was working, so we kept with it. But yeah, I don't think they were afraid to try it any other way. I mean, it's just I feel like it's easier to audible out of that too sometimes. So.
Yeah, and I have to ask you about this specific play that happened because it was you blocking someone on Arkansas's edge out toward the sideline. You are totally facing the sideline. Like you got and Trevor Etienne like juked right into the defender, just right into his rib cage. And then I feel like I saw you like turn around and just be like, what just happened? And then Trevor's just like patting his chest like that's my bad. Just like what happens on a play like that where like from your point of view, you're engaged, whether or not like you're engaged. You have no idea what's going on behind you.
Oh,
And
it just
then
confusion. Like, did I mess up? Was it me that messed up? I mean, Trevor's such a great player. He rarely makes mistakes. So when you do, you always like, okay, this must have been my fault because this guy never messes up. And I was like, what happened? And he was like, that's my bad. And I was like, okay, just making sure I didn't mess up because I felt like I had the hole, But I mean, it happens to all of us. It's not like we were yelling at each other, but yeah, I was a little confused. I kind of was walking back to the sideline, like looking at the screen. And I was like, okay, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. So.
Yeah, because from like the broadcast angle, again, like I'd imagine you're engaged with your guy. You're like, okay, whether or not the run's going here or not, you're engaged. And then dude just gets taken out because of that. So I'd imagine there's a little bit of confusion there. But today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. You can score early this NFL or NBA season. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins, betting $5. Okay? I'm just saying, we can look at the NFL, you can look at college football, college basketball is a good way to go. But like, let's say college football right now, I'm looking at this weekend and just who's top 25 team playing. Louisville minus 1,700 favorites over Virginia right now. Tulane minus 2,100 favorites over Tulsa right now. Kansas State over Baylor. Kansas State's minus 1,700. Hell of a time, right? Hell of a time. Join FanDuel. Florida State's minus 630 over Miami. I'm probably taking Miami just because that's good value in a rivalry game. Anything could happen. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and kick off the NFL season right. Remember that FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. But one thing that we saw this weekend also is Tony Livingston back to playing considerable snaps here. From your side of view, I feel like every week I ask you a question and it ends up getting the answer of like, well, there's certain rules in this situation. We do this. Is there much of a difference between how you have to operate depending on the other tight end that's on the field with you? Like, because again, we saw Tony come back. Is that difference, or is there any true difference between when you're on the field next to Tony or next to Arliss, or is it just same stuff, different tight end with you?
Yeah, I mean, same stuff. Same with when it was me and Odom. I mean, it's we all have our same rules, everything else. I mean, maybe the communication's a little different, but I mean, for the most part, it's same rules. Doesn't matter who's in there. They can put you in there behind me, I'm still going to do my thing. So.
We don't want to see that. We don't want to see that one there.
It just depends on what happens,
Yeah, I will have a PFF blocking grade of 0.0. That is
probably better than mine, man.
It is going to go rough there. But this weekend, you guys have LSU. Tough game. A game that every year I look forward to. One of my best friends is an LSU fan. And since we've been friends, it has not gone Florida's way. That it's probably my fault. Since I've taken over this show, it has not gone Florida's way. So probably my fault there. But what's preparation been like for this one? Because it's always heated when Florida and LSU play each other. And then you guys have on top of that, maybe Jaden Daniels doesn't play at this time. We don't know if he's going to be cleared or not. He got, of course, put into concussion protocol Saturday against Alabama. Bowl eligibility on the line for you guys. Just what's prep been like? Is it just? I'd imagine it can't be just like every other week. There's no difference here.
Yeah, I mean it's just we're just really searching for the complete game. That's how we're practicing. The big emphasis is remember how Saturday felt while you're tired, you're mid practice, you're hot. Just would you rather feel it now or feel it Saturday? We're a younger team. We're trying to develop. We're chasing that perfect game. And I'll tell you right now, if we can put a complete game together this season, we're going to give fans a taste of what's to come. Because I'm just it's hard to explain, man. It's just because I see a lot of stuff people don't see in practice, and it's just when this team is clicking, they're clicking, But obviously we're chasing that game, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think that kind of opens up the next question of we touched on social media last week and from the player side of things and getting whatever tweets you may see if you search your name or if someone sends it to you or tags you or whatever. But from your side of things, what is it like to kind of open social media? Because again, whether or not you look for it, you're going to see it. But you see people criticize specifically Billy Napier and this coaching staff because we acknowledge, and I'm not going to pretend I don't also criticize the coach and the staff here, but I don't do the whole fire him thing that we see all the time. But that pops up. But you mentioned, the things that you get to see in practice, and if you could put together a complete game, then it'll be a sign of things to come. But right now, we can acknowledge this is a young team that hasn't put together a complete staff. There are some organizational issues that we see, like the substitution at the end there. Just what is it like from a player side of things to be you're bought in? And we know the players are still very much bought in here, but is it kind of weird to be yeah, we're all bought in, and then fans are just fire them, kill them, I don't care, I want them gone? It's a very weird thing here.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of just makes you laugh sometimes reading some of the stuff they're writing. It's just Billy Napier needs to get fired this year. That makes no sense. You bring the guy in here, it's going to be a rebuild. It's year 2. We made strides. I mean, the type of guy Napier is, he'll always say that they can do better, the staff can do better. But to an extent, the players, us as players, we have to execute his vision. We have to execute what we've been coached to do. And it's not all on him. They coach us. We have a game plan. Even on me sometimes. I had the false start against Georgia. I've missed a couple blocks along the way. It's just people always just put it on Napier. I mean, that's also a part of the job. He signed up for it. He understands that. He does a good job taking blame and telling them that there's more that they can do. But there's also more the players can do. We can be more solid. We can be more reliable. We can be more disciplined for him. So I'm just once this whole thing gets on track, man, we're going to be good. Napier definitely knows what he's talking about. He's very detailed through off season, through the season. So I hope to see his vision complete by next year.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned the false start against Georgia, because earlier today when I was scrolling Twitter, I saw there was a coach that I know that he posted, one of the Twitter coaches that Princely hates. He was posting how Georgia uses that little shuffle at the end and how it causes false starts, and he put a compilation together, and you were the last one that I saw, and I was like, damn, that's. There is nothing else to say about that. But before I let you go, we like to end on a not football question. Sean Strickland, next fight, been announced. Been announced UFC 297 in Toronto. How you feeling about it now that it was announced yesterday, or at the time that this comes out, Monday?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, man, how are you going to make America's champ fight in Canada? First off,
the first defense
that rubbed me the wrong way. The guy tweeted out, was like, I didn't want to fight in January or in Canada, but here we are. So I mean, respect to that guy. He's going to go out there and do his thing. I love that man. He speaks his heart. He doesn't care what anyone else thinks. I really can't wait. But I mean, I'm also a big fan of Driscus too. He the way he fights is so awkward. No one knows how to really match him, and also Sean Strickland's more of an awkward type too. I feel like it's the perfect matchup. And if Sean wasn't there, I would vote. He'd have my vote, But I hope Sean goes in there and just steamrolls him, Maybe he'll change Canada to more like the U.S. I don't know. The American champ's going to walk in there and leave his impression.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. So I heard you had a question from my roommate, tight end number 85, Scott Isaacs.
Hey, Scott. So I don't know if you know this, but there was a punt that you could have blocked.
Oh yeah. Hey, take a seat.
You go ahead, have a seat, Scott. Go ahead, have a seat here.
We still scored that drive, so we still got a nice return.
But so. you were so close to glory. Just so close. To glory.
Maybe this week, you never know.
Was it like when you play Madden and you accidentally press triangle to jump instead of square to dive?
I was just worried about roughing the punter. Like, that's really it. But I just didn't want to go in and get a penalty. But that's about it.
Yeah, that's fair. Just next time, lay it all on the line. All right. Just go for it.
Yeah.
I know. I sent Hayden the video. I was like, I was watching the game back and I saw it. I was just like, oh, that's.
Yeah, my dad said, why didn't you watch it?
Sad too. But thank you very much, Scott, for taking some time to join the tight end interview.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Hayden. This is Hayden Hansen, Florida Gators starting tight end. Catch him every Wednesday on Locked On Gators, every Saturday playing for your Florida Gators, hopefully hitting bowl eligibility this weekend. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll be back tomorrow. It's crossover Thursday. Caroline Fenton, Locked On LSU. We're talking this matchup for Locked On Gators. I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Line Sports, Giants Country, and NFL 33. And I will see you all tomorrow.